As the election draws closer day by day, the polls become more significant. With the release of new polls in key swing states, I will be updating my 2024 Electoral College map to predict who will be president come November. Starting with Trump's safe states, we have Montana, Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska at large, and its 1st and 3rd districts, Missouri, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, and Alaska. Trump begins with a solid base of 98 electoral votes. Now we move on to Kamala Harris's safe states. We can count on Washington, California, Connecticut, Illinois, Hawaii, Maryland, Massachusetts, Vermont, D.C., Delaware, Maine's 1st District, Maine at large, and New York. With these solid states, Harris leads with 157 electoral votes to the former president's 98. Now we will move on to the likely states, which are those expected to go to either Trump or Harris by margins between 7 and 15 percentage points. These states don't seem likely to flip come November. Arkansas has been a reliable Republican state for the past 6 elections and currently remains in Trump's favor. A Hendrix College poll conducted among 696 likely voters shows Trump with a 15-point lead over Harris. This puts Arkansas close to becoming a safe Republican state with such a wide margin. Arkansas is firmly expected to stay red this election cycle. Mississippi remains in Trump's likely column, continuing its history as a reliably red state. However, recent polling shows Trump leading Harris by 9 points, a margin notably narrower than in past elections. In 2020, Trump won Mississippi by 16.5 points, highlighting some erosion in the Republican base this cycle. Despite this shift, the state's long-standing Republican support, driven by conservative voters, ensures that Mississippi is still expected to remain in Trump's favor this election cycle. South Carolina continues to be a likely state for Trump, retaining its status as a Republican stronghold. A recent Winthrop University Center poll shows Trump leading Harris by a solid 10 points, close to the results of previous elections, where Trump won the state by 14.3 points in 2016 and 11.7 points in 2020. South Carolina's political landscape has remained stable, with strong GOP support from its rural and evangelical voter base. Although there's no specific polling yet on a Harris versus Trump race, historical trends suggest South Carolina will remain firmly in Trump's column. Moving to the blue side, we start with Virginia, which has now solidified its place in the likely category for Harris. A new poll by Christopher Newport University, conducted among 800 likely voters, shows Harris leading Trump by 11 points, marking a significant strengthening of her position. This shift reinforces Virginia's status as a reliable Democratic state. With an 11-point lead, Harris appears to be maintaining a stable advantage in Virginia as Election Day approaches, positioning the state firmly in the Democratic column. Colorado remains firmly in Harris's likely column, with the latest polling showing her holding a 10-point lead. This reflects the state's strong Democratic support in recent years, a shift that has been building since the 2008 election when Colorado transitioned from being a swing state to a more reliably blue state. In the 2020 election, Biden secured Colorado by a substantial margin of 13.5 points, further cementing its Democratic lean. If Harris maintains her current lead, it would continue to solidify Colorado's status as a Democratic stronghold in 2024, bolstered by progressive urban centers and a diverse electorate that favors Democratic policies. New Jersey was a deep blue state in 2020, with Biden winning by 15.9 points. The latest poll indicates that the same will be true come November, with a new active vote poll of 400 likely voters showing Harris leading by 12 points. Nebraska's 2nd District, a historically competitive area, has shifted further in favor of Harris and is now classified as a likely win for the Democratic nominee. The latest poll from the New York Times/Siena College, conducted among 680 likely voters, shows Harris holding a 9-point lead over Trump. This district, which includes Omaha and its suburbs, has seen changing demographics and shifting political attitudes, contributing to its competitive nature in recent years. Biden won this district by 6.6 points in 2020, and with Harris's current 9-point lead, it appears poised to remain in the Democratic column for 2024. Rhode Island remains in the likely category for Harris, but her lead has been solidified with the latest poll conducted by Embold Research, which surveyed 876 likely voters. The latest polling shows Harris with a 14-point lead over Trump in Rhode Island, a comfortable margin that reinforces the state's long-standing position as a Democratic stronghold. Rhode Island has consistently voted blue in every presidential election since 1988. New Mexico remains in Harris's likely column, with the latest polling from Survey USA among 619 likely voters showing her holding an 8-point lead over Trump. This margin reflects a slight tightening compared to Biden's 2020 victory in the state, where he won by 10.8 points. The narrowing gap could be attributed to Trump's increasing support among Hispanic voters, making the race in New Mexico more competitive. However, with an 8-point lead, Harris still holds a comfortable advantage heading into the election. The likely category ends with Harris at 204 electoral votes and Trump at 199. But things are far from over. Some shocking polls are expected soon that could shift the tide back to red. Now, we move on to the leaning category, where the respective candidate leads by a margin between 2 and 7 points. Ohio remains a solidly Republican state, as shown by the latest Washington Post poll conducted among 1,002 likely voters. The poll shows Trump leading Harris by 7 points, reinforcing Ohio's shift toward the GOP in recent election cycles. While Trump's margin in Ohio has narrowed slightly compared to 2016 and 2020, when he won by over 8 points, the state still appears firmly in Trump's favor. Ohio's conservative working-class voter base continues to support the former president, making it a reliable state for his electoral map in 2024. Maine's 2nd District has shifted firmly in favor of Trump, with the latest poll conducted by Pan Atlantic Research among 398 likely voters showing him leading Harris by 7 points. This district, known for its independent streak, has consistently leaned Republican in recent election cycles, with Trump winning by 7.3 points in 2020. The new data indicates that Trump continues to hold a solid advantage in this rural district, making it a key target for his 2024 campaign. Texas has moved into the lean category for Trump, as shown by the latest Marist College survey conducted among 1,186 likely voters. The poll shows Trump leading Harris by 7 points, indicating that while the race is competitive, Texas still leans Republican. Trump's lead has narrowed slightly from earlier polls that showed a larger margin, reflecting shifting demographics and growing urban populations in cities like Austin, Houston, and Dallas. Nevertheless, with a 7-point lead, Trump maintains a solid advantage, keeping Texas a crucial state for his 2024 campaign. In Iowa, the latest Signal poll of 600 likely voters shows Trump with a 7-point lead over Harris. While this represents a drop from previous polling, the state's shift to red is consistent with his past performances, where Trump won by 9.4 points in 2016 and 8.2 points in 2020. Once a competitive battleground, Iowa has shifted toward being a more reliably Republican state in recent years, largely due to its rural conservative voter base and strong support for Trump's populist message. In Florida, the latest poll conducted by Marist College among 1,110 registered voters shows Trump with a 4-point lead over Harris. Florida has long been a critical swing state, with its large and diverse electorate, often reflecting national trends. With Florida's 30 electoral votes at stake, any further tightening of the race could challenge the GOP's position. As always, Florida will likely be decided by turnout in key areas such as the I-4 corridor. South Florida, which could swing the election in either direction, remains a critical area to watch. Nevada has shifted slightly in favor of Trump, with the latest poll conducted by VZOL and Associates among 800 likely voters showing him holding a 3-point lead over Harris. This narrow margin places Nevada back in play as a battleground state. In 2020, Biden won Nevada by 2.4 points, but the state's political landscape remains competitive due to its diverse electorate and strong union presence. With 6 electoral votes at stake, both campaigns are likely to focus heavily on Nevada as the race tightens, and Trump's 3-point lead makes this a key state to watch in the final months of the campaign. Now we move to the blue side. New Hampshire falls in favor of Harris, showing an interesting electoral shift. In 2016, Clinton narrowly defeated Trump by just 0.37 points, but by 2020, Biden widened that margin to 7.4 points, solidifying the state's Democratic foothold. Early 2024 polling showed a closer race, when Biden was the presumptive nominee. But since Harris entered the race, she has managed to maintain the gap. The St. Anselm College Survey Center poll now shows Harris with a 7-point lead over Trump, indicating that New Hampshire is likely to stay blue as the election approaches. Minnesota also finds itself in the lean category for Harris, with the latest polling data showing a slight edge for the Democratic candidate. According to a new poll conducted by ActiVote among 400 likely voters, Harris leads Trump by 6 points. This margin indicates that while Minnesota continues to lean Democratic, the race remains competitive. In both 2016 and 2020, Minnesota leaned toward the Democrats, with Biden winning by 7.1 points in 2020. Harris's current 6-point lead suggests a similar race compared to previous elections, keeping Minnesota a key state to watch as Election Day approaches. On the other hand, Oregon seems to be heading in the opposite direction. It was a deep blue state for Biden, who won by 16.1 points in 2020. Early 2024 polls kept it in the likely category with a double-digit margin. However, since Harris joined the race, the gap for the DNC has more than halved, dropping it into the lean category with a 5-point lead. According to a Hoffman Research Group poll among 700 likely voters, Pennsylvania has moved back into the lean category for Harris, with the latest poll conducted by the Philadelphia Inquirer among 857 likely voters showing Harris leading by 4 points. This is a crucial shift in one of the most important battleground states, where Biden narrowly won by 1.2 points in 2020. With Pennsylvania's 19 electoral votes up for grabs, this narrow margin underscores the fierce competition in the state. Both campaigns are expected to focus heavily on Pennsylvania, as it remains pivotal in determining the overall outcome of the election. Harris is still leading, but the gap has narrowed. Now, entering the swing states, everything is about to change. These states have a margin of 2 points or lower. Wisconsin has moved into the swing category for Trump, with the latest Patriot polling survey conducted among 803 registered voters showing Trump leading Harris by 1 point. This margin reflects Wisconsin's continued status as a key battleground state, where Biden narrowly won by just 0.63 points in 2020. Trump's 1-point lead suggests that while the race remains competitive, he currently has an edge in the state. Both campaigns are expected to invest heavily in Wisconsin, as its 10 electoral votes could play a decisive role in determining the 2024 election outcome. Arizona has now moved into the battleground category for Trump. The latest poll from the Trafalgar Group, conducted among 1,090 likely voters, gives Trump a 2-point lead over Harris. This shift toward Trump reflects ongoing challenges for Democrats in this border state, where issues like immigration play a key role in shaping voter sentiment. In 2016, Trump won Arizona by 3.5 points, but the state flipped to Biden by just 0.31 points in 2020. Arizona remains highly competitive, but Trump currently has the edge heading into the final stretch of the campaign. Kansas has also moved into the swing category, with the latest polling showing a 2-point lead for the former president. This is a notable decrease from the double-digit margins Kansas has provided Republicans in the past. Trump won Kansas by 14 points in 2020, but this smaller margin indicates a shift, potentially driven by changing demographics and political dynamics within the state. Michigan has flipped in favor of Harris, with the On Point Politics poll placing the state 1 point ahead for Kamala among 692 likely voters. North Carolina has moved into the swing category for Trump following a F. Zoll and Associates poll conducted among 800 likely voters. The poll shows Trump with a 1-point lead over Harris, solidifying his narrow advantage in this key battleground state. In 2020, Trump won North Carolina by 1.3 points, and while the state remains highly competitive, Trump's current edge places it in the Republican column for now. With 15 electoral votes at stake, North Carolina will continue to be a crucial battleground for both campaigns as they work to secure the state in the final stretch of the race. Before finishing off the map, I must quickly tell you about the hottest new Trump clothing at TrumpApparel.com. From Trump flags to t-shirts, caps, and even socks, we've got it all. Become a true American patriot today and support Donald Trump in style. Click the link in the description now. Lastly, Georgia has been recently polled in favor of Trump, with the latest poll from Redfield and Wilton Strategies among 608 likely voters handing Trump a 1-point lead over Kamala Harris. As it stands, this is how the map looks heading into November.